Hey guys, Cam Free 15, joined by my Uncle Daryl. We are here with more Chicago Bears fallout. Um, no background for the Bears. I thought you would change it because Eberflus is gone. No?
Well, I said I wasn't gonna go with a Bears background, but NFL, come on now, we can't. It's still the best thing going today.
Yeah. So yesterday they held the press conference. Um,
Mm-hmm.
of Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles. Thomas Brown
Mm-hmm.
also spoke as well. And then we
Mm-hmm.
also, yesterday, if you watch 670 The Score, we did hear from DJ Moore in the morning, and then we heard from Jalen Johnson later in the afternoon. Just to
Yeah.
get the player stuff out the
At the
way.
end of the day,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, at the end of the day, okay, all right, Jalen Johnson, we just admit you're just not gonna say anything other than at the end of the day. But go ahead, I digress.
Yeah, look, and honestly, I think the reason why he didn't dive into that is because it's like what Thomas Brown said in his press conference yesterday of saying basically we're going to keep things in house.
Yeah, yeah.
If I yes, I have great neighbors, but they don't know what the hell's going on in my house, and I don't know what the hell's going on in their house. And that was
And
a,
I like it that way.
and obviously that was obviously an issue. You go back to the Washington situation, you had a bunch of players openly just come out and just say a bunch of stuff like Kevin Byard. Again, we don't like Eberflus and blah 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 blah. We're glad he's gone, but Kevin Byard, a veteran, violated a locker room thing. He literally told the media, "I had a sit down conversation with Eberflus, and I told him directly to his face, I think we should have handled this better." And obviously, Eberflus felt differently. That shouldn't get out. Now, yes, is that nice to hear from the player? Like, oh yeah, you did go to your coach. You said you gave your opinion on the situation, but realistically, as a fan, should I know that? No, keep that in house.
No,
That's what Tom.
no, no. I agree with you. I agree with you totally because and as a coach, and again, I coach basketball, but the premise is still the same. You want to keep all issues in house. If you keep issues in house and you keep issues within your immediate circle, then most times you will recover as a unit. The problem came is when Eberflus didn't take accountability for his actions and everything that he has done. That's where the problem comes in with the players. The players are just like, listen here, dude, you throwing guys under the bus. Granted, Tyreek Stevenson was a complete and utter idiot. Let's just call it what it was. Stevenson has been a complete and utter idiot. Yes. However, that said, it is up to the head coach to rein him in, which obviously Eberflus did not do. Instead, he threw him under the bus. And I think that in a sense was a problem. Even if the player is wrong, you don't throw him under the bus. You create an atmosphere in-house. That way the others, in addition to what you're trying to teach, reins that young man in. He's only what, 22, 23 years old, maybe 24. He's still a child. He don't know how to act. That's why the adults in the room have to take over. And Eberflus, being the main adult in the room, did not take over and did not rein this young man in the way he should have. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, and that's kind of the thing right then and there. Again, like I said earlier, DJ Moore talked a little bit about it. Um,
Yep,
he said as the season was going on, you just kind of figured that was going to happen. About the Eberflus firing.
yep,
Thursday at the end of the game was the last straw. I feel like they did it. Now we got Thomas Brown as the
yep.
interim head coach, and we're going to go out there and we're going to go play for him. Um, he even goes on to say we could have just taken the timeout, regrouped, and gotten two plays off if that was the case. My view, I feel like that. Feel like the coach has to call the timeout to regroup us. He
Correct.
ended up also saying that he got a call from Ryan Poles about the firing of Matt Eberflus, who said we're just going to get this thing turned around, and a leader of men is going to be here for the next coach. And then Jalen
Correct.
Johnson, I watched that whole thing, his whole thing. You could clearly tell, as Lawrence Holmes and Matt Spiegel were asking him questions, you could just tell, like, in the answers, he was obviously very frustrated, very upset with the whole thing. Like, he literally, like, they
That's correct.
asked him to see if, like, hey, is there anything you wanted to, get off your plate and everything? He's like, look, man, I don't really give a damn. Like, enough.
Yeah.
My point was enough was enough. And
And let's
obviously,
try to understand where
mhm.
Jalen is coming from. Jalen is he didn't get here under Eberflus. He's been through this organization for a good little while now. So he understands how, for the most part, if anything, how McCaskey works. So with all of that being said, he's probably was frustrated before Eberflus even got here.
Yeah,
So
he
once Eberflus got here, no, go ahead.
one of his quotes that he talked about, he said, part of what I said after the game is that I've been losing for 5 years. So, I mean, I feel like a high level player myself. After a certain point,
Yep,
losing games, how we've been losing games, someone has to express something.
correct. And I gotta admit, it probably just blew up. Everything that he went through with Eberflus, everything he went through with Eberflus's predecessor, I gotta admit, 5 years is a long time in the NFL to be losing. And I gotta admit, for a cat like Jalen Johnson, who I assume, and I have not looked this week, I assume he's still PFF's number one cornerback in certain situations. This guy is freaking pissed. I mean, let's be honest. He is pissed. He's not being utilized the way he is. I'm pretty sure he wants to be on the number one guy every week, and they just won't do it. They're just going to stick him on one side and play zone defense. It's like eventually the offenses are going to get around it. Now, granted, last year it really worked the last 7 or 8 games, but this year, oh man, NFL defenses always adjust. Just like NFL offenses, they always adjust. And they're adjusting to the fact that, you know what, we play the Bears. All we got to do is move our number one guy around, and Johnson will not travel with him.
Yeah. Again, you can't blame him. He just talked about how frustrated he is and
Nope,
how fed up he
nope,
is. He's one of the longer tenure guys that have been here, realistically. He's one of
yep,
the few people from
yep,
the Pace Nagy regime that is still here. Because most of those
yep.
guys are, honest to God, gone. Like, the only other
They're
guy that I
gone.
know is from that regime is probably Komet. And after that, it's like
Yeah,
basically a bunch of pole guys.
yep, yep. And let's not, and now that you mentioned Poles, he is not immune either, in my opinion. Although I will say, at the press conference, him and Kevin Warren, they created a united front to politic to the Bears fans, and I'm going to use the term politic, that they are trying to bring a championship to Chicago. Great. Everything sounded good. Everything sounded wonderful. I'm not going to lie. Until I saw the face of George McCaskey when it was all said and done. He looked pissed. Now, granted, we can assume why he looked pissed. My assumption will be different from anybody else's. My assumption is he did not want to fire Matt Eberflus, which is the reason why he went out for that Zoom call at 9 a.m.
Yep.
McCaskey did not want to fire him. McCaskey wanted to keep him,
Yep.
but he had no choice to let him go when he doubled down on his decision to not call a timeout. At that point, McCaskey was like, God damn, excuse my French. Oh, my Lord, I'm so sorry. At that point, McCaskey was like, dude, I got to listen to Ryan and I got to listen to Kevin.
Yeah.
There are some reports that say Poles wanted him fired after the Washington game.
No, after the
Am I
Patriots.
right?
They said that
Well, okay, after the
those
Patriots
room.
game.
It's weird. There's a bunch of rumors going around
It's
now.
correct.
Like David Kaplan yesterday on the show said, like, oh, Eberflus was forced upon Ryan Poles. Again, we know David Kaplan is pretty tapped into like his network and his connections, but again, it's a bunch of rumors. We don't actually know what's going
Correct.
on.
We
So
really
that could
do
be
not
true.
know.
Would that make the
But
most
there was
sense
some
that Eberflus?
interesting questions. there were some interesting questions that was asked, such as, are you guys going to do this yourselves? Or are
He
you
didn't even
guys going to
get into committee.
employ, yeah, or employ a committee like they did with the last search with Bill Polian? And the whole time I'm saying, oh God, no, please don't. Please don't. Do this yourselves. If you want to sit up here and preach accountability, do this yourselves. Get the right guy.
And
Whether
they,
that's Thomas Brown,
Mhm.
we don't know. We
Yep,
probably should wait until he goes through this next, what, 6, 7 games?
5 games.
5 games? But we should wait.
Yeah, and to that response, they basically said like, as of right now, we have no plans on doing that, but
Nope,
we're the
I
ones that are
wouldn't.
heading the search.
Now, I will say one thing I did like what Ryan said is that the reason why we did that was done back then. With everything he knows now, he's in a better position because he knows the team to be able to find the right guy.
Yep.
Now, that also says to me, Ryan, you don't get this right, you done. You
Now,
done.
the one interesting thing that a lot of Bear fans and even a lot of Chicago media are making the standpoint is they're making it also seem that it also seems that more than likely, even though Ryan's going to have some say in this decision, and from what Warren's word says, he will have the final say. It seems like Kevin Warren realistically might be the lead guy in this entire search, and then they'll obviously collaborate. I know that word is used
Yeah,
loosely.
yeah, yeah. He was very loosely.
Um,
However, I understand why. I understand why. Now, keep in mind now, and you can refresh my memory about this. Poles did not hire Eberflus. Am I correct in saying that?
they hired Poles, and then a few days later they hired Eberflus. The rumor from David
Right.
Kaplan
So,
says
so,
that
in,
they
so in a
forced them
sense,
on.
that could have been Polian's team
Yep.
that hired the GM and then Eberflus. So, in a sense, let's just say, and maybe Poles did have some input on Eberflus. Maybe. I tend to think not.
Yeah.
So let's just say that Poles did not hire Eberflus. I'm pretty sure with everything he knows now, everything he knows about this team, everything he knows about this organization, everything he knows about this city, that he is going to want to have a firsthand look on who they may want to consider for this organization. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yep. Kevin Warren ended up listing things in terms of that they're looking for the next head coach. He said, like, obviously, one, accountability, and then another point he made, a decisive decision maker. Uh,
Yes.
yeah. Things that
And
Eberflus did.
probably someone, yeah, and probably someone who has some type of ability to groom a quarterback.
Yeah.
Now, that could be someone from both the defensive and offensive side of the ball. But that could be anybody.
Yeah. Could be anybody.
Now, I'm not going to sit up here and go out on a limb and say that Thomas Brown is the guy.
Yep.
I'm not going to say that. But contrary to what I think, everyone is sitting over here grooming, saying Ben Johnson is, Ben Johnson is, Ben Johnson is. All I'm saying is, listen, Thomas Brown has already had 3 games. I think 3 games with Caleb Williams. And I got to admit, dude looks really good under Thomas Brown.
Yep.
The players respect Thomas Brown. Even DJ Moore said one of the things he liked about Thomas Brown is that he is this leader of men,
Yep.
whereas Eberflus was.
Yeah.
I think Eberflus talked a good game, but it's different to talk the game than walk the game. And I think Eberflus talk. But when it come time for him to zip his pants up, pull them up, and then show something, he just couldn't. He
Yeah.
couldn't. He sat there with a deer in headlights. Now we're going to get an opportunity for Thomas Brown to do the same. Now, will it be different? Yes, because now he
We
has to put
hope
in
it's
the entire
different.
game plan, not just the offensive. Right. It's going to be completely different. So, but we'll see. I'm rooting for the guy, but in the end, we need the right guy, man. We got a quarterback that I honestly feel that, dude, he can be really good for the next 10 if he has the right coach. You got to think about this guy when you decide on the next head coach. You got to.
Yeah,
You got to think about number 18.
and you know, I was in a I was in a Twitter conversation with one of my basketball dudes who was talking to me about the Bears football and that they should hire Ben Johnson. And I'm like, that's fine if they want to hire him. Yeah, he's probably my top five candidates they should interview. But my thing
Yeah,
is, he's a good X's and O's coach. He can draw up an offense. He can do this. But here's the question: is he a leader of men when things get tough? You're going through a slump. You're going through a four-game losing streak. Is he going to find a
that's
way
correct.
to not only take accountability and say, I got to do a better job and find ways to get us out of this losing streak? These are the questions that need to be asked in the interview process. What are you going to do in
I
a
agree.
situation where it's 30 seconds left? Your quarterback just took a sack. You got one timeout you need to use, and you're at least in position to kick a game time field goal. What are you going to
That's
do?
correct. What are you
Are
going to
you
do?
going to take the necessary?
And keep in mind, he was a head coaching candidate last year,
Yeah.
and he didn't find one. Now, is that by choice because the
Yeah, but
teams
it
that
was
were
by choice.
interested in him?
It's come down like by choice. He
Now,
chose.
I understand. I understand. If it was by choice, that's one thing. Is he looking for a specific franchise to coach?
I don't know what
So,
franchise he would look for because they're all going to be
uh,
bad situations.
like I say, I don't know. I don't know. But all I can tell you is the one bargaining chip we got is number 18. So if
Yeah.
he's any good at leading men, and I'm pretty sure being under Dan Campbell, you can probably get an idea of what he can well, you know what? I'm not gonna say that. Now that I think
Yeah,
about it, I'm not gonna sit up here and say that
that's what
just
that
because he coached with Dan Campbell for the last 3 to 4 years, that he can automatically just rally the troops in the same fashion that Dan Campbell can. I'm not
that's what
Dan
I said.
Campbell was an amazing find.
That's what I said to the person I was talking with on Twitter. Like, Dan Campbell is the guy that rallies the troops, and he's the guy that gets up in people's faces. Ben Johnson, he just
Correct.
calls the plays and he draws up the offense for the players. Yeah, he'll maybe hold the players
Correct.
accountable if they're not executing his plays, but realistically, that's going to be
Correct.
more Dan Campbell's play. So, with Ben
Correct.
Johnson, the reason why, like, again, I'll still interview him, but the reason why I'm kind of like, I don't know, we could be getting another Nagy here. I ain't trying to get another Nagy here.
Yeah, absolutely. I
And
want a
and
guy
and
that's
that's
going to
why,
get to be.
a few days ago, people were upset of, well, the whole thing that the Bears are looking for are good leader men. And I understand Bear fans can feel the way they want, and they feel like that can be a hollow, phrase. But realistically, that's what this team needs. We need a team. We need a
Yes.
person that's a leader of men, a game manager, and is not only willing to hold his players accountable, he's willing to hold even his coaches on his staff accountable. And that's another thing Eberflus failed to
And
do.
more importantly, he's also willing to hold himself accountable,
Yep.
something that Eberflus failed or just was unwilling to do. And I
Nagy rarely
think,
did that.
yep, Nagy did too.
I don't
He
I don't
he
remember
threw.
much of if Fox did it. I know Trestman damn
No,
sure
John Fox
didn't
did
do
it
it.
too. John Fox didn't take accountability for that offense. That offense was horrible under John Fox, which is the reason why they got Matt Nagy.
Yep. And then I already know Trestman didn't take accountability.
Oh hell no! Trestman was just he just seemed like he was a deer in headlights.
Yeah, he was.
But again, we have an amazing opportunity to find the right guy. Now, unfortunately, because the season is still ongoing, I don't think they can actually at least. I know they can't interview anyone,
They can at least
but
talk to people
you can talk to people.
or
Like we got another
put in
game with Detroit.
requests.
I would not be shocked. Yeah. I would not be shocked if, let's just say, Caleb Williams went over to Ben Johnson and said, "Hey, dog, what do you think about coaching the Bears?" You know what I mean? So again, it was just one of them things about finding the right guy. Finding the right guy. Who would have thought that a coach like Kevin O'Connell, who got released as a backup quarterback, would wind up being one of the most premier offensive minds in football today?
Well, he was Sean McVay's offensive coordinator.
Well, it's true, but I'm saying he had to get to that point, you know. So I mean, it's. I don't envy Warren. I don't envy Poles. But at the same time, though, as far as Ryan Poles is concerned, dude on the clock.
Um,
It's the reason why Kevin Warren. It's the reason why Kevin Warren is saying, "I want this decision to be mine," or I want to have the last say."
yeah,
I mean, I think
he
there's a
was very
trust factor. That's
and, and my take on the press conference, he talked with confidence and everything, and then Poles was kind of just over here to the side, and it was just like, and I'm just like, the heck? I gotta be
it's like he
honest,
had to
that was
set Poles up. He, he had to set Poles up to be where he is. Dude, we got an amazing fan base. We got amazing this. We got amazing this. We everything is really great. We want to make sure we got the right guys in the right position. Kevin Warren's job is safe from what I can see.
well,
Poles'
clearly,
job, on the other hand, you better get the right one.
yeah,
You better get the right one.
it, it wasn't a good look for Ryan Poles. He didn't look. I don't know
No,
what his
I don't believe so either.
I don't know what his mindset was. I don't know if he was a little bit disappointed. Well, clearly disappointed, but I don't know if he was upset. Maybe kind of like the whole thing of like he's just up there as a walk of shame of saying like that was your hire at the end of the day, regardless whether it was forced upon you or not. You could have done some things to
Yep.
fix it. Like for example, the last question, a reporter asked, and it sucks also too. There was one reporter that was trying to get the Trace Armstrong thing up, but obviously reporters, you don't want to ask your question out there, so you got if you're loud out there, you're gonna get your question asked. But the last question of their
Yeah.
press conference was in regards to the Shane Waldron. They asked Ryan Poles is like, so what the heck is about your thoughts on the Shane Waldron hiring? And this man literally froze, just like how Eberflus froze when not calling the timeout. And I'm like, oh my God, that's not a good look.
No, that wasn't a good look at all. And again, just like I said before, after that whole thing was over, when they walked out, they showed a clip of McCaskey over there, and I gotta admit, he was
All three of them.
pissed.
The other
All three
ones
of
were
them
there
was
too.
pissed. They were pissed. They were not smiling. I would have thought that if they were had a united front, then McCaskey and his group would have been over there like, great job. They would have been smiling, thumbs up, that kind of thing like that. There was none of that. So all I'm saying is that I think jobs are on the line because I still just don't believe the McCaskies want to fire Eberflus. I think they
They
thought
probably
he could
didn't.
turn.
They probably didn't. That's why, and I'm about to get into that because they asked Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles the question about like, okay, what was the whole issue with the firing of Eberflus? Why'd you let him go out there talk to the media, and then you fire him 2 hours later? Kevin Warren ended up saying,
He gave him some cock and bull story about Thanksgiving and family and all of that stuff. I was like, man, please. We're talking Monday morning. He would have spent the whole weekend with his family prior to that 9 a.m. press conference. So, I mean, you should have got rid of him on Sunday night.
he
That's
goes
my
on.
point.
He goes on to say, I can tell you this, when Coach Eberflus had his press conference, he had not made our final decision. In retrospect, could we have done it better? Absolutely. But during his press conference and a couple hours later, we had not reached our decision. Now, again, I will appreciate the fact they took accountability for saying, yes, we probably should have handled it better. Well, if you didn't come to first things first, one, I think that's a bold-faced lie. Listen, if you ain't had come to a decision
Yeah, absolutely.
if you ain't come to a
Absolutely.
decision when you were in the locker room and you heard Jalen Johnson visibly basically cuss out his coach and
Correct.
the way you lost and the fact that,
Correct.
reports said like, they looked and they looked pretty upset. They were there in the locker room a lot longer than they typically have been previous weeks. You should know in that instance, especially with a player lashing out at a coach, we gotta get this guy out of here.
Yeah, we got
Now,
to do something.
I also feel like they were also playing a way to say like they were trying to convince George, dude, we gotta fire this guy. He's
We
lost
got
it
to get rid
all.
of.
And George was
Yeah,
kind of probably in the meeting, and it's like, come on, look, we had this type of thing last year. He got it back on track, but they're like, George, we have to let him go. Stop being stubborn.
and the main thing about that is, Cameron, is before Eberflus was even hired, McCaskey admitted he was not a football guy. He was not. I don't know football. So what the hell would you know about a lost locker room? You would not know anything about that if you are not a football guy. Now, me personally, again, between the two of us, you're more of a football guy than I am. But I have coached men, I have coached young adults. I know what it's like to lose a locker room. When you lose a locker room, trust me, there is no point. It is difficult to get them back.
Yep.
And I have lost the locker room before. It is difficult to get them back. Once you lose the locker room, I can tell you right now, your season is done. You might be able to get them back next year, maybe. But once you lose that locker room, I can tell you right now, that season you're in right now, it is completely done. When you got players, basically, you having player meetings after games, and them players are telling you you should have did this and you should have did that, and you didn't do this and you didn't do that, and you see ownership wants to keep this dude around. Come on, man. That pisses players off even more. Thus, Jalen Johnson. He saw how McCaskey's created Nagy. He sees how the McCaskey's treated Eberflus over Poles and Warren, and he didn't want to listen to them.
Well, he ended up actually listen. Well, look, at the end of
He
the
didn't
day,
have a choice.
he didn't have a
I'm
choice,
pretty
and
sure he heard those players. He heard reports of the players cussing his coach out. Oh, let's just give him one more chance. Maybe he'll take accountability and he'll set it straight in the 9 a.m. Zoom call on Monday. He'll set it straight. I have full confidence in him that he'll set it straight. And in pure Eberflus fashion, well, you
he
know what?
didn't.
I got the favor of the owner. I got the favor of the owner. So F Poles and F Warren. And that's what he went into with that press conference. I saw that Zoom call. There was nothing ooze. Everything that was oozing from him was just flat out arrogance. It was arrogance. I have
It's
the
the
favor of
exact
the
same thing.
owner.
He said he would do it
Yeah,
again.
I have the
Exact same
favor of
way
the
he handled
owner.
it.
I'm going to be here because the owner wants me here. He said everything but that. Well, he did say it, just not that way. I have full confidence I'm going to be here because George told me.
Look, but
George told me.
at the end of the day, you got to give credit to Ryan Poles and especially Kevin Warren because if Ted Phillips was still president, he would have not done nothing.
Eberflus would have still been there.
He would have been
But
here.
I don't think we would have been honestly, if Ted Phillips was here, I don't think we would have Williams. I don't think we would have Moore. I don't think we would have Allen, a Doomsday. I don't think we would have Swift. I don't think we would have any of these guys. I just don't think so. The game was so far past Phillips's ass. It just we probably would be what 0-9 right now. 0 and
Phillips was an
10.
accountant. Ted Phillips was an accountant. At least with Ryan or with
That's
Kevin,
it.
he's somewhat of a football mind. He got football
Correct.
mind. He's been in the business. And if there's
Correct.
something we can give credit to Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren, they did their jobs and they convinced the owner we got to let the guy go. And the owner
And then
maybe
on top
didn't
of that,
want
they're
to.
football guys.
Yeah.
and they're football guys.
And I know
You
Kevin
know,
Warren has been getting a lot of flack with the fact that it seems like he's taking over this whole thing. Well, and people are using the whole phrase, well, he's just a businessman. He's supposed to work on the stadium. Guys, you wanted a team president that knew something about football, and if it came to him getting involved, if his GM is making bad decisions, that's the role of what the team president's supposed to do. That's the next chain of command. And
that's
honestly,
correct.
I approve
That's
of the
correct.
fact that he should be involved in this decision because guess what? Regardless, whatever happened, whether polls was forced upon, or Eberflus was forced upon polls, at the end of the day, you still the record I said Eberflus, that's the exact same record as Ryan Poles as GM of the Bears. Exact
Correct.
same record.
Correct.
2-13 in the
Correct.
division, 14-32 overall. See, as a president, that's mean okay, I need to step in, I need to help you.
This
You
is
you
what
need to
I'm looking at as an overall for the Bears. This is what I'm looking at. Since I got here, I started looking at A, B, and C. A, B, and C. This is what I'm seeing. And how is it that I can sit up here and try to get the city of Chicago to get us a new stadium, and we are doing this? We have to give the fans of Chicago something to look forward to so I can move this stadium deal forward. This stadium deal is not going to move forward if we are losing.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure that conversation between Poles and Warren was had. Dude, we got to do something. Poles was like, hey, man, I've been trying to fire the doggone guy since the Patriots game, but McCaskey won't let me do it. Oh, really? Okay, all right, let me see what's happening. He
Yeah.
going to fire him now because I've made it dollars and cents. If you don't get rid of this guy, we losing money.
Yep.
It's just that simple. If we don't get rid of this guy, we losing money. And that's probably the one thing that McCaskey understands, the bottom line.
Of course. Of
Of
course.
course, he a businessman. Dude, we are 14-32 since this guy's been here. He ain't won on the road in what, 20-something games.
He's 0-18 on the road
The
on Sunday.
fans are not going to want to sit. You are trying to get a new stadium for a losing football team. Trust me, that is going to be more difficult for me to achieve. You've got to get with the Eberflus so we can try to put something together. We still have an opportunity to end this season 500 or better. We have an opportunity to do that. Granted, we got to win out, but we still have an opportunity to give these fans some hope and let this Arlington Heights group know, hey, we serious about this new stadium.
Little bits and pieces from the Thomas Brown interview. He said that Chris
I
Beatty
loved it.
will be
Sorry,
available,
I loved it.
will be elevated to offensive coordinator. He said Eric Washington will be the defensive play caller. He talks that I'm not a micromanager, says he will trust the defensive staff to handle their game plan. It's just simple stuff that he said. He talked about
Yeah,
basically, again, like we mentioned earlier, keeping things, basically having the meeting, telling the players to keep things in house. He talked about, the situation. He held himself accountable for not holding that minute or last few seconds of Detroit stuff. He takes blame in that as well. Again, he talked about, coachability, dependability, and accountability, everything. I liked what he said. Again, it's a breath of fresh air because he's saying all the things that Matt Eberflus avoided to say. So, and
correct.
plain and simple, and if you read the
And
read the athletic report, you could tell like the other coaches clearly more than likely were not on the same game plan as Eberflus was. But when it came to hearing what not Waldron, Thomas Brown was saying, they're like, I vibe with this guy. I vibe with this guy. Like we found in the athletic article, we've been heavily critical of Chris Morgan. I still am because the offensive line still hasn't improved and some of these dudes still haven't developed. But the fact that Waldron came in and threw away his two-year running game plan, like any coach would be upset with Waldron and be like, man, why are you changing everything that was working the last 2 years here?
yeah,
But I
and
enjoyed
what I
everything
like
that
mostly,
Thomas Brown had to say.
yeah, what I like mostly is that he preached the things, he's talked about the things that Eberflus should have been doing. Should have been doing. And he basically said that that's not me. We're going to make people accountable for their actions. If all goes right and it still does not work, then it is on me to ensure that things are changed. So we're gonna see. Like I said, we got 5 games to go. We got San Francisco up next, a beatable San Francisco team. McCaffrey's done.
Yeah.
So McCaffrey's done. I think Mason's done too at the running back for the San Francisco 49ers. So I think they're doing a running back committee, I think. But this is a beatable football team.
Yep.
And I think the way to get started is to make sure that you do what you're supposed to do with a beatable football team, and that is to beat them
Yeah.
in their building, which is something historically the Chicago Bears have not really done. So, all of that being said, we got a really good opportunity. I think Thomas Brown has a really great opportunity to get the pulse of this football team wrapped around his finger and get this job, man. Because if he can pull off this next 5 games, he's in a really good position to be the next and the future head coach of the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, we'll see how he does. I still give him a solid shot. Regardless, I still think they should talk to outside people. My top five are probably Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel, Joe Brady. Um, well, actually, that's my top three, I guess you can say right now. I
Well,
would,
you got Slovic in Tennessee. I mean, in Houston, he's still up there. So I mean, there are some really good candidates out there, but most of all, I mean, we shouldn't just hire a guy just because we got Caleb Williams because there's a roster of 55, and we have to make sure their voices are heard too, especially when it comes to what they can bring to a football team. We
yeah,
got to get all 55 in the right place, right mind, right situation, and we got to get them thinking the right thing. So, that being said, I honestly think Thomas Brown has got an amazing opportunity. He looks like he's ready for the challenge, and let's see what he can do.
yeah. And then I guess the last little plug, if somehow Stefanski or Shanahan somehow become available, throw them the blank check. Throw them the blank check.
Reel him in, reel him in.
Now, if Kyle Shanahan's on the
Now,
market, and
the only thing I don't like about Shanahan is that he crumbles in the big game.
yeah,
That's the
but
only thing I
he would
don't
make
like
it.
about Shanahan.
At least we
But
be
he would make
consistently
it.
good.
He would definitely turn around this Bears football team. In fact, I probably would just go ahead and ask to interview him anyway.
Yeah. So maybe a start to that is beating the 49ers and getting San Francisco even more riled up.
Yep.
So we'll
Because
see.
I mean, when it's
Anyways,
all really said and done, has Shanahan really had a quarterback?
no.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That being said,
Anyways, we'll get out of here, guys. We'll do our NFL prediction video on Friday, and stuff like that. So yeah, regardless, we'll get out of here. We'll talk more Bears stuff. I don't know if you'll be on because it's a late afternoon game for Bears 49ers, but I'll be here doing a recap. So yeah. Anyways, we're gonna get out of here. Until then, guys,
yeah.
stay safe out there. Peace.